So this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while, as it seems to be a hot topic in the media, and it also seems to be a frequent topic of debate between me and my friends. Just who are the top 10 3-point shooters in NBA history? Sure, you could just look at the all-time list for total 3-pointers made and determine the top 10 that way. But let's be honest, if you want a genuine discussion about who the best shooters were, then it's actually a lot more nuanced than that. For some perspective, here's a chart that shows how the volume of 3-pointers attempted have been rapidly increasing since its implementation in 1979. I guarantee you that if Steph Curry played at this point in the 80s, he wouldn't have attempted as many 3-pointers in his career. That's just not something that they had embraced yet at that point, even though they still had some solid 3-point shooters. But that's just one area of nuance that I'm looking at. Here are 6 different categories that I will be factoring in. First off is obviously efficiency. Making a lot of 3-pointers alone isn't going to get high on the list, but the player also has to be making them at a high rate. The second category is volume. In a similar way, a player can't simply be efficient while being extremely selective with his attempts. A higher volume of threes are needed alongside of that efficiency. The third category is a variety of 3-point shots. For example, many players have had great percentages over their careers, but they did it primarily as spot-up shooters. If a player can create his own 3-point shot, if he can shoot off the dribble, coming off screens, and so on, then it will help him move higher up the list. The fourth category is their all-time ranking for total 3-pointers made. Although it's not the only factor, it still counts for something. Fifth is the inflation of threes and how good the players were relative to their own era. And the sixth and last category is how they did in 3-point contests. Without a doubt, this is the least important category, but again, I think it counts for something. Some people laugh at the suggestion of 3-point shots being factored in, but then for some reason don't apply that same logic to the dunkers and the dunk contests. For me, it all matters. So now that we're on the same page, let's get into the list. Number 10, Steve Kerr. He was primarily a spot-up shooter, and from a statistical standpoint, he was the most efficient 3-point shooter in NBA history, as he hit a career 55.4% from deep. For that incredibly efficient sniping, some may think that he needs to be toward the top of the list. But he wasn't the type of shooter to create his own shot, and beyond that, he didn't attempt many threes per game, since he was just a role player off the bench. In the 95-96 season, he shot a career-high 2.9 3-point attempts per game, but even in that era, that only ranked him 62nd overall that season. So again, if you have an open 3-point shot, there may be no better option than Kerr. But because there's so much more that goes into it, he only barely squeezes into my top 10. Number 9, James Harden. As things currently stand, James Harden is third on the NBA's all-time list in total 3-pointers made, and it's only a matter of time before he passes Ray Allen to secure the second spot. James has certain aspects down to a science. At his peak, he could easily create his own 3-point shots. As an insanely skilled ball handler, he could get up a shot basically anytime he wanted. Now, the reason why Harden isn't as high as his all-time ranking for total threes is because Harden is very much a volume 3-point shooter. Over the course of his career, he was hitting 36.4% of his 3-point attempts, which is generally above league average, but that's also the lowest career percentage of any player in this top 10. Number 8, Larry Bird. This legend's ranking among the top shooters has been a point of contention over the last few years. Some think he's good enough to be a top 3 shooter in NBA history, while some think it's absurd to have him anywhere near the top 10. Obviously, by my ranking, I find myself somewhere in the middle. Bird was a rookie in the same season that the 3-point shot was introduced to the NBA, so he was literally learning that shot as he was going through his professional career. Despite that, he still went on to shoot 37.9% throughout his career. His volume of 3-point shots seems low by modern standards, but at one point, he was the leader in 3-point attempts per game for 2 straight seasons. Bird also had every kind of three-point shot, as he could hit them off balance, he could pull up in transition, and he could catch and shoot. Throw in the fact that he won the three-point contest in 3 straight years, and yeah, he certainly deserves a spot on the list even without a tremendous volume. Number 7. Peja Stojakovic. This guy has somehow become a generally unknown star of history's past. Throughout the entirety of his career, he was almost always among the league leaders in three-pointers attempted per game. He had a tremendous green light throughout the 2000s when less three-point shots were taken. I can only imagine how many he would be shooting if he played in this modern era. He was a career 40.1% shooter from distance, and at 6 foot 10 inches tall, he could get a good look just about any time he wanted. This is Peja's current ranking on the all-time list for three-pointers made, and the fact that he's this high on the list as a player who was drafted in the 90s, who retired in just his early 30s because of injuries, is utterly insane. That should tell you how lethal he was from deep in his era. Number 6. Kyle Korver. This absolute sniper was one of the most efficient role-playing shooters in the history of the game. He led the entire league in three-point percentage in 4 separate seasons. At his very best on the Atlanta Hawks in 2015, he was hitting an insanely reliable 49.2% from three-point range, while shooting 6 three-point attempts a night, which was 10th in the league in attempts per game. He had the efficiency and the volume, but the one thing he lacked was the ability to create a shot for himself. If he had that too, then he'd probably be in the top 3 rather than the top 6. Number 5. Damian Lillard. You all know this guy. He's basically in range the second he crosses half court, and although he might not be the most efficient player on the list at a career 37.2%, he certainly is near the top when it comes to volume, as he had 3 seasons where he shot at least 10 three-point attempts per game. On top of that, there's no kind of perimeter shot that Lillard can't hit regularly, as he can hit them while he's off balance, he can hit them off of screens, in transition, or from 35 feet out. He's also extremely clutch from three-point range, thanks to his ability to create space and get a good look for himself. When you take everything into consideration, he's worthy of a top 5 spot. Number 4. Reggie Miller. Speaking of clutch three-point shooters, there's very few better than this guy, as Reggie built his entire reputation and legacy off of his elite perimeter game. Like Steph Curry, Miller used to travel all over the court without the ball, coming off screens and looking for opportunities to get up a quick shot. It didn't matter if he was off balance 30 feet out, or even if he was being fouled during the shot. There was always a good chance of it going in when Reggie was the one shooting it. He was always among the league leaders in attempts throughout the 90s, and he shot a career 39.5% from that distance, which naturally made him the standard of excellent perimeter shooting during his era. Number 3. Klay Thompson. The second Splash Brother has had many famous moments from three-point range, especially in the playoffs. Beyond that, he is also the all-time record holder for the most three-pointers made in a single game, which was a total of 14 against the Chicago Bulls, where he didn't even play in the 4th quarter. He's always dangerous from deep, but especially when he gets hot, defenses would be foolish to give him just a second of daylight. Over his career, he shot 41.4% from deep, while constantly being among the league leaders in attempts. Number 2. Ray Allen. For a while, he was the NBA's all-time record holder for three-pointers made, and the fact that he's still in the top 3 despite playing in an earlier era of basketball is truly remarkable. Allen has a deep history of making clutch three-pointers, including arguably the most clutch shot in NBA Finals history. He shot a career 40% from three-point distance on a tremendously high volume of attempts, especially during his era. Many people often forget that he was a go-to superstar in his prime, and in those days, there was no question that Allen could get up quality shots of his own with his playmaking abilities. Before we get into the completely surprising number 1 spot, here's a look at the honorable mentions. Should any of these players have made the list instead? Let me know below. Number 1. Steph Curry. Was there ever any doubt? This guy helped change the game with his incredible sniping, as he expedited the process of the NBA increasing its three-point shooting. Over his career, he's hitting around 42% of his three-point shots, on roughly 9 attempts per game. His peak was nothing short of legendary, as he made a record-breaking total of 402 three-point shots on a whopping 45.4% from deep. He has every kind of three-point shot in his bag. He's the NBA's all-time leader in three-pointers made and only continues to build upon his massive lead. Without question, he is the greatest three-point shooter of all time. So what do you guys think? How would you change up the list? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.